Hey everybody, it's Sean and Trey with Reactions to the Classics. Before we get started today, we just wanted to invite you to take a look at our Patreon page where we have all kinds of reward tiers, anywhere from reacting to an entire album to songs. Supporting us for as little as $1 a month. It really helps us out.
And you can also check out our Facebook and Discord groups down below. Got a great community of people who love music. And all that to say, y'all, let's get to today's video. What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined again by my dad, Sean, and today, Reactions to the Classics, we are going to be looking at the first of Dylan's Christian trilogy, Slow Train Coming. This comes courtesy of our resident Dylan superfan and Patreon supporter, Sean. So, as always, Sean, appreciate it, man. And this
great name, too.
Oh, absolutely, as always. And this is the first time we had heard any of these tunes, but let's just get into the quick facts.
Yeah, let's do it. It's the 19th studio album by Dylan. It's always amazing when you talk about Dylan. Released in August of '79 on Columbia. Number 2 in the UK, number 3 in the US. All over the place on critical reviews on this thing. As you said, it's the first in the trilogy of Christian albums. So the subject matter of these is definitely evangelical Christian belief stuff. His conversion is an interesting story. I can't go into all of it. Some of it is, he ended up following, kind of getting led down the wrong path of using another book along with the Bible. And, whenever that starts happening to people, if you're a Christian, it's the Bible. There is no second book. And so that, I think, might have got him off track later on. But he said he was performing a concert in San Diego and he's feeling horrible. And a woman throws a cross on the stage. So people threw stuff on the stage all the time. He never picked it up. And for some reason, he felt led to go pick it up. So he picks it up and he put it in his pocket. He brought it backstage, took it with him to the next town, which was in Arizona. He said he was feeling worse than he did in San Diego. He thought, well, I need something tonight. I didn't know what it was. I used to use all kinds of things. I said, I need something tonight that I didn't have before. He looked in his pocket. It was the cross. He said he put it on. He said he felt Jesus' presence that night in the hotel room. So he goes out. He performs, and he later on said that the songs he wrote on here, he didn't really want to write him, that they actually, he quote, frightened him, the content matter. He actually hooks up with Mark Knopfler here as well, which later on he works a lot further with Mark. So he had heard Mark, and he approached him and asked him to play on this album. Mark had no idea these were Christian songs, so Mark goes down to the recording studio and he calls up his manager and goes, man, these are all Christian songs. But he said he had so much admiration for the way Dylan approached things that he stayed on, which thank goodness, because they did produce some really good stuff later on as well. And Knopfler's guitar is fantastic on this, which I know that we're going to get into. And last thing on this album is actually ranked 16 on the top Christian albums of all time on one of the major publications, so I found that interesting.
And so we're just going to start this off with a Grammy-winning tune, actually.
Yes.
Gotta Serve Somebody. And here, as we're talking about Knopfler, his bluesy guitar just really sets the slickness of this track. The notes come in just so smooth, and the subject matter really says that no matter what your beliefs are, your occupation, walk of life, at the end of the day, you either got to serve the Lord or the devil. And there's some self-examining lyrics in here. He notes that you might be a rock and roll addict prancing on the stage. I think throughout this, Dylan is kind of a little bit reflective of himself at certain points. So there was like a rhyme scheme in here.
There was.
So I think that held it back just a little bit. That would be my one criticism from reaching a top tier Dylan song.
Right, I kind of felt the same way. The lyrics are really good, but that rhyming scheme, there's the little things in there that it's still really good. It's a standout on this album. Oh. One of the things I found of interest is John Lennon did a parody of this song.
That's right.
Called Serve Yourself. So John was firing shots at Bob. I don't know what their relationship was at the end. I mean, this was close, unfortunately, to the end for John, so I don't know how that worked out. But we're going to move on to the second track, a song that I really enjoyed, Precious Angel.
Yeah, this was one of my favorites. This is about as good as I've ever heard Bob, just in a singing voice.
I agree. Vocally, it's definitely a standout.
And here we have a lot of allusions to scripture, and just biblical themes, from the Revelation to like slavery to all the way going back to the Old Testament and Israel, and a bunch of themes in there that I was definitely able to pick up on as a Christian myself. Yeah. And this was one of my favorites on the A side here. I just thought, again, Knopfler's silky smooth guitar playing just was the great foundation and backing of this tune to what Dylan was saying.
Yeah, and Dylan actually said in a concert in 1980 that the song is addressed to the woman who brought him to Christianity. It's consistent with the lyrics, particularly in the final verse where he refers to the delivering angel as the torch that led him to the greater light of Jesus. And also a line from the song continues the theme of the previous song, Gotta Serve Somebody, stating that you either got faith or you got unbelief, and there ain't no neutral ground. So I don't really have anything else to comment on it. I echo exactly what you said. The guitar is fantastic. The vocals are fantastic. That takes us to I Believe in You.
Yeah, and here, this again was pretty relatable as a Christian there. Again, it was a little bit prophetic at a certain line here, in the sense of what some of his fans would say to his new direction. They say, don't come back no more, because I don't be like they'd like me to. And this song had a calming nature to it with the instrumentation and Dylan's voice, and he's really out there kind of yearning like that he wants to stand firm in his faith and ask God to help him stand firm.
Yeah, saying, I don't need everybody else if I have you. And you brought up a good point on the fans. This alienated a ton of his fans. Obviously, I was alive then. I was 7, so I don't really know. But I can imagine, you're really following someone and buy into someone, and then they change directions totally. If you're a Christian, you're probably like, wow, this is really cool. But if you weren't...
Yeah, you'd be like, what is Bob doing?
Now we come to the final track on the A-side. My favorite track on the A-side, and actually on the whole album, spoiler alert, Slow Train. And on this, he's just saying Christianity is a slow train coming. You're either on it or you're off. But he goes through a bunch of stuff in this world that doesn't really matter. It's a broken record, Trey. Nice guitar again. It's the same theme. We think all these things in life matter, no matter what your belief system is, right? You think all this stuff in your life matters because at the moment it does. But the older you get and the more perspective you get, you realize it really doesn't. And Bob's just saying at the end of the day, none of it matters. It really just matters where you're going, heaven or hell.
And there was a line in here that noted, but the enemy I see wears a cloak of decency, all non-believers and men stealers talking in the name of religion. Gave me some Matthew 7:23 vibes where people are saying, oh Lord, we did all these things in your name. But God says, I never knew you. And so I thought that was good of Bob to be aware of, people use religion for man-made purposes.
Big time.
And,
that's part of why it's so difficult to evangelize to people. They've seen all these clowns that use it incorrectly, yes.
And instrumentally, I thought this was a little bit more unique because it had a slight organ as well as a horn arrangement. I'm a sucker for those horns.
You are, man.
So the A-side was very, very solid. B-side, I wasn't as big a fan of, and we go now to the B-side. First song.
I'm going to change my way of thinking. Strong vocally. It's louder vocally. I don't know how to explain it. Nice instrumentation. And this is the same theme as we've got throughout. To focus on heaven and not on the things that don't matter.
Yeah, and there was an interesting songwriting technique. You would say the line like twice in a row before ending with like a big punchline, essentially. Had a little bit of cowbell in here. This was the most on the nose, I think, Christian song that was probably on the record. I thought this was one of the weaker tunes up to this point. Just didn't really grip me too much, but that's okay. Everything will affect people differently.
Yeah, I agree. I like the lyrics. Lyrically, it was spot on, but I agree. It's kind of weird to start out the side 2 with this because normally, you want to start and finish with strong stuff, but I guess we might be in the minority here. That takes us to Do Right to Me, Baby, parentheses, do unto others. Follows a pattern, Trey, of I don't want to someone, and I don't want someone to. So it's the do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. I like that lyrically. I thought lyrically it was really strong. Again, the song for me is okay.
Yeah, I almost felt this was written in like 15 minutes. I just...
Very well might have been.
I felt it was a little bit hollow for me. And that's part of the issue because you're comparing Bob to Bob,
Yeah, and that's the difficult thing on some of these. The same thing when we ran the Beatles discography, right? You start comparing, and that's tough because it's like if this is just some guy over here and we're reviewing it, we might go, wow, this is really good.
Wow, this is a strong tune. But just because it just from other songs on the record and of course in Bob's entire discography, this didn't stand out as much. But it really hits on the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, which goes back all the way, not to Jesus, but actually all the way back to Leviticus in the Old Testament. And then there was a big Jewish rabbi, Rabbi Hillel, who really put that forth as well. And then, of course, Jesus expanded on it. But I'm just, I was able to use my religion degree
I was going to say, wow, Trey's dropping some knowledge here.
So I was like, this is a good opportunity for me to actually use this. But then we're going to keep on rocking to the third song on the B-side.
When you gonna wake up? And this keeps with the theme about waking up to the things that matter. Talks of all the ways we are pulled astray.
Yeah, and there's a line in here. Karl Marx has got you by the throat, and Henry Kissinger's got you tied up in knots. We have the craziness of adulterers in churches, lawbreakers making rules. It picks at the false notion that many have that God is just an errand boy to satisfy your wandering desires, and ends with a proclamation from Bob to believe in Christ. I can see this being a bit of a turnoff for people, just
it's
for
very strong,
overly preachy nature. As we go back to people that are hearing this as Dylan fans who might not be of the faith, but I enjoyed it actually.
It had nice horns, so I figured you would enjoy it musically at least.
And then that's going to take us to probably the worst Dylan track I've ever heard.
I agree. I'm trying to look at it in the perspective of, this was used a lot, they said, in children's ministries in the church and all that, and I can see
it has a good legacy.
That side of it. Man gave names to all the animals. And the lyrics were actually turned into a children's book published in 1999. The music's reggae inspired by the book of Genesis, chapter 2, where Adam named all the animals and birds. There was a nice backing. I thought there was a little bit of a funk in the guitar to kind of change that. I guess that's sort of into that reggae stuff.
Yeah, it was reggae inspired with, and I don't know.
The rhyming of it was a little tough.
Yeah, because it would almost try to be gritty with the instrumentation, the serious backing vocals, yet what Bob was saying made it comical, just because it's like lighthearted lyrics talking about, the bear and the pig and just like characteristics of them. I will say the ending was kind of neat because it talks about the snake and then it just cuts off midway through the sentence, obviously going back to the snake in the Garden of Eden. So that is my positive on that tune.
Yeah, like I said, they used it for the kids and they took it, and did it that way. So I can see that. I don't really have much else to add.
No, but then we do finish with one of my favorite tunes on here. By far my favorite on the B side, with When He Returns.
Yeah, he's telling you Jesus is coming back. You better be ready. Strip back. Got a piano in here that's real nice that fits the sentiment of this song. Kind of a change instrumentally.
Yeah, the Knopfler wasn't as prominent on this B side, so here it definitely gave this a different type of tune, just with the piano being the backbone. Kind of fit the nature of the message here. And there's a line in here: will I ever learn that there will be no peace, that the war won't cease until he returns? Passion from Bob here. You can tell the sincerity in his voice.
Yeah, definitely.
I put this up here with Precious Angel as his best vocal performances, some of the best I've ever heard him do.
Agree.
And so I just thought we ended this record on a fantastic note.
I echo everything you said, and now we get to our favorite tracks. For me, it's the two that end each side. The one we just talked about, When He Returns, and Slow Train.
And I'd add Precious Angel in there as well for me. Just fantastic vocal performance. And then that'll take us to our overall score. What do you got on that?
Well, Troy, we've been setting up shop a little bit in the late 70s, early 80s, mainly on Dylan. We just did Shot of Love recently, so it gives me a good comparison. I actually like this album slightly better than Shot of Love because I think the standout tracks are really up there. So for me, I'm going to give this a 7.
Yeah, I echo a lot of your thoughts, man. I definitely thought it was a step up from Shot of Love, which is, of course, his ending in his Christian trilogy. I thought the high highs were really up there. Sure, there were a couple duds in here, but with only 9 songs, I think the good does outweigh the bad. And over time, it has been critically seen as a little bit better than people in the moment that probably just brush it off like, what is Bob doing? Without actually listening to the great instrumentation and just his vocal performances. So I'm going to be right with you. Thought it was a good record, 7 out of 10 for me. Let us know what you think of Slow Train. Comment in the comments below. Thanks again to my man Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Patreon supporter, and you can check out our Patreon as well down below. Appreciate you, Dad, for the research.
Enjoy it, always.
Be sure to hit that big thumbs up and subscribe button if you liked what you saw today. Until next time, y'all, thank you for watching. Happy listening, and we will see ya.